Chris.
James, thank you. Joining me now, Republican Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas. Senator, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Thanks, Chris. Good to be
You
on.
are a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee, the one that the White House is now calling on to investigate whether or not the Obama administration abused its executive role. Are you going to do that?
Well, Chris, we've already begun an inquiry on the Intelligence Committee into Russia's efforts to undermine confidence in our political system last year and our interest all around the world. That inquiry is going to be thorough, and we're going to follow the facts wherever they lead us. And I'm sure that this matter will be a part of that inquiry.
This matter, this allegation that...
Well, as part of our inquiry, we're going to review allegations of any kind of improper contacts between Russian officials and campaign officials or other American citizens. And I'm sure that we'll be reviewing any allegations such as this.
Let me ask you specifically, as a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee, have you seen any evidence up till now that the Obama administration wiretapped Donald Trump or anyone else in Trump Tower during the campaign?
I've seen no evidence of the allegations we've seen in the media, Chris, whether that's a potential FISA court application or a denial of that application or a resubmission of an application or surveillance for that matter. That doesn't mean that none of these things happened. It simply means I haven't seen that yet, as Speaker Ryan said in the lead-in to our conversation here. But I would not want to speculate about media reports based on anonymous sources. I would prefer to deal in facts.
Let me ask you to deal in facts and follow up on something that you mentioned in passing, because the government would need a court order to engage in this kind of wiretapping, and they would need to show probable cause, either that a crime had been committed or that somebody was acting as a foreign agent. Do you know whether or not there has been such a court order? And if not, are you going to try to find out?
I don't know, Chris.
Are you going to try to find out?
I think all these matters will be a part of our inquiry.
I know you're being careful, and I know I'm putting you in a tough spot, but I do have to ask you, because this is something that is on the minds of Americans, and they're trying to understand what is going on in this country. And yes, you have a role as a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee. You also have a role as a senator and as a leader in this country, and people are pretty confused right now. When you see this tweet that we saw this weekend from President Trump, that former President Obama tapped his phones, he compares it to Watergate and calls Mr. Obama a bad or sick guy. I'm not asking you as a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee. I'm asking you as a U.S. Senator and a U.S. leader. What's your reaction?
Well, I try not to parse and review every one of President Obama's or President Trump's tweets, Chris. I prefer to focus on things like his speech to Congress the other night, where he laid out in an hour-long speech a very careful plan of action. I think that's a better guide to what he's thinking and where he wants to take the country, just like his appointments to his cabinet and the policies he's pursuing. But
you have folks back in Arkansas, in your state, and this is a pretty serious charge.
Yeah.
What would you say to them about an allegation by one president that a former president wiretapped him during the campaign?
Chris, I was actually in Heber Springs yesterday morning. We had a town hall with over 450 Arkansans, and for almost an hour and a half, got a lot of questions. I only got one question about this. Almost all the questions were about health care and the harms that Obamacare have caused, or immigration and the failure to enforce our immigration laws under President Obama's tenure, or rebuilding our military to face the challenges we face, or to include from Russia. This kind of topic is not going to do much to bring those people comfort that we're going to fix their healthcare system or enforce our immigration laws. I think that town hall is a pretty good indication of where most Americans' minds are right now.
You say that you don't pay a lot of attention to Donald Trump's tweets. Why not?
I think Twitter is an important medium that politicians can use to communicate, just like FDR started using radio addresses, just like President Obama changed the radio address to a weekly YouTube address. But ultimately, a better guide for an elected official's actions are their prepared, deliberate speech, like the president gave to Congress the other night, which was well crafted and well delivered, and especially the policies they've pursued. And for 6 weeks now, President Obama has appointed members to his cabinet.
You keep saying Obama.
President Trump has appointed members to his cabinet, and they've made deliberate statements that have been tougher on Russia than anything President Obama ever did. If you want to know what a pro-Russia policy would look like, Chris, here are some elements of it. You'd slash defense spending, you'd slow down our nuclear modernization, you'd roll back missile defense systems, you would enter a one-sided nuclear arms control agreement, and you'd try to do everything you could to stop oil and gas production. That was Barack Obama's policy for 8 years. That's not Donald Trump's policy. None of those things are good for Russia that Donald Trump has proposed to do to roll back some of those Obama-era policies.
I just want to, and I'm sure some people are saying enough already, but I do want to follow up one more time. There is the possibility, as you say, and you're going to investigate it, that it's true. There's also the possibility that it isn't true and that the president just flew off the handle. That would be pretty troubling, wouldn't it? The idea that a president would make a charge this explosive about another president without any evidence?
Well, all presidents are human, Chris, and if a lot of the allegations in the media are false, and I can tell you, based on things I do know, there are many inaccurate reports that have circulated in the media over the last several months. It's understandable that Donald Trump would be frustrated at the leaks of inaccurate information, which also have the potential to reveal capabilities of the United States that we don't want our adversaries to know.
Okay. We've talked enough about the tweets. Let's step back and look at the big picture, because the Senate Intelligence Committee has been investigating this whole issue for some period of time. And again, I'm only asking you what you know. Have you seen any evidence so far in this investigation, hard evidence of collusion between what I will call Trump world and Russia or Russian agents to interfere with the election?
No, Chris, I've seen no evidence. And again, I would just say that media reports have gotten pretty far over their skis on this. Maybe the most explosive story came from the New York Times about 3 weeks ago, claiming that several known Trump associates were being investigated for repeated and extensive contacts with Russian intelligence officials. And as I cautioned Arkansans this weekend, I would say to your viewers, you should not trust media sources or media reports based on anonymous sources. The one thing you can trust in those articles is the caveats that undermine the headlines and the lead paragraphs. And in that very New York Times story, the third paragraph said there was no evidence so far of any such cooperation.
And you, as a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee, and I know you've been briefed by FBI Director Comey and other members of the Intelligence Committee and Investigative Committee, you've seen no evidence so far of collusion?
Thus far, I have not. Now, we're still in the relatively early stages of our inquiry, and it will be thorough and wide-ranging and follow the facts wherever they take us. But I would simply caution your viewers again, do not credit media reports that are based on anonymous sources. Doesn't mean you should discard them, doesn't mean they're false. We'll review these allegations, but I'm encouraging your viewers not to take them at face value.
Senator Chris Coons, who is our next guest, be on after the break, said this on Friday. Take a look.
There are transcripts that provide very helpful, very critical insights into whether or not Russian intelligence and senior Russian political leaders, including Vladimir Putin, were cooperating, were colluding with the Trump campaign at the highest levels to influence the outcome of our election.
As a member of the Intelligence Committee, sir, is that true?
I would prefer not to discuss what transcripts may or may not be available, because that would reveal what we do and do not know, or our capabilities of knowing those things. And I would just leave it at that.
But you stand by your statement that you've seen no evidence of collusion.
I do.
You know, this is a complicated subject. I wanted to talk to you about a lot of other things. President Trump.
I'd be happy to talk to you about my immigration bill. Well, get our immigration system under
next
control.
time, because here's the point, sir. President Trump is living under a cloud, and his agenda is being sidetracked by continued leaks from inside the government. The New York Times reported this week, this is one of these media stories, that the Obama administration disseminated intelligence widely about Russia and Mr. Trump to assure it wasn't destroyed. Do you believe there's an effort inside this government to undercut President Trump and to derail his agenda?
Well, Chris, that New York Times story to me just doesn't make sense on its face. I mean, the intelligence community doesn't willy-nilly destroy intelligence that has been collected. I would point out to your viewers that the FBI is not just a law enforcement agency. It's part of our intelligence services. It does counterintelligence. Who does the FBI report to? The Department of Justice, which is run by political appointees. Until January 20th, those political appointees were Barack Obama's appointees, just like the members of his National Security Council was. Now, there's obviously been a lot of leaks coming out from either current or especially former administration officials. I suspect that most of that information comes from former Obama officials who still have not been able to come to grips with the fact that Donald Trump won this election. And that story right there, again, it just doesn't make sense on its face. That information is preserved. It's almost always shared with Congress, so any efforts to destroy it would not be effective. And finally, as part of our inquiry on the Senate Intelligence Committee, we've been given access to highly sensitive, foundational documents that were the basis of the intelligence community's Russia assessment. That didn't happen in the Obama administration. That happened in the Trump administration.
Finally, we had another development this week, and that was that Attorney General Sessions recused himself from any involvement in this investigation. Do you trust the Justice Department now, with Sessions out of it, to investigate itself? Or given the fact that if President Trump is right, he has disclosed information he shouldn't about a wiretap that would be part of this investigation, do you think there's a need for a special counsel to handle this matter going forward?
I see no reason for that at this point, Chris. I would like to see politically accountable officials make these decisions, which means I'd like to see the Senate move promptly to confirm President Trump's Deputy Attorney General and Associate Attorney General. I think the American people deserve democratically accountable officials making these decisions. But at this point, I see no reason why that would be necessary. I also see no reason why we would try to appoint some kind of independent or special committee or commission, in part because it would delay our conclusions. The Senate Intelligence Committee's work is underway. We have the staff with the appropriate clearances. We have the space. We have the infrastructure. We've made the decisions, or we've made the agreements with the intelligence community to review the documents. If you started over with a new commission or a new committee, that could take months. I think it's in the best interest of the American people if we conduct our review as quickly as possible and make as much of our conclusions public as possible.
Senator Cotton, thank you. Thanks for your time. And I promise the next time you're here, we're going to talk about your immigration bill in depth, sir.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it.
Up next, Democratic Senator Chris Coons on the latest astonishing